Hello and welcome. My name is Michael Bourgeois. I'm joined with Katie Levenstein, and today we will be giving you the integrated tour of Deltek Kona and Vision. Let's get started. So, when we think about Kona business, we really like to go ahead and describe it as if it was a social business triangle, and it's probably the easiest way to go ahead and understand what we're trying to capture within the Kona business solution. So let's start at the top of that triangle when we start thinking about one's personal productivity. I could be a member in a project. I could be a participant in a big group. I could go ahead and be an individual task manager. I could be a person who needs to go ahead and participate in a number of different conversations or events. And really the idea is within the My Kona view, you're able to go ahead and funnel all that information up into what you need to do as an individual contributor within a project or within a group to your very own specific dashboard. And what this does is it gives you a nice funnel into what are the tasks I need to participate in? What are the conversations that I'm going ahead and collaborating in? What are the different documents that I need to share across team members and across group members? There's a really nice view into all the things that you do within Kona Business as an individual person, part of a team or part of a larger group. So it gives you a really nice slant, a really nice view into what you need to do to stay personally productive across all the different facets and groups that you're then participating in. Lower right hand corner, we start thinking about our private social network for the company. So a lot of people attribute this to an intranet or an internal web page where a number of people are coming to gain information, to seek knowledge about what the company's doing or what the company's up to. We're able to go ahead and do that inside of a space that we call the hub, and really, the concept behind the hub is it is that social intranet. It is the place where you can go ahead and publish your internal newsletter. You can talk about the new hires you have. You can go ahead and collaborate across different ideas that impact everybody who's then part of your business Kona community. And that's really a function that's internal to your organization. So it serves as a really nice medium for everyone to come to gain an understanding of what's happening, what do I need to be involved in, what are the things that are transpiring inside of my office or inside of my company. And then we think about the big, massive driver behind Kona Business, and it's really the whole concept of being able to collaborate through spaces and projects for both your internal and external teams. So when we start thinking about how our firms today are really executing on projects and how those particular firms are collaborating around that information, there's not a really good and overarching answer. A lot of people are using SharePoint. A number of people are bastardizing document management repositories. But what we're doing with Kona Business is we're really giving you a facility to go ahead and have a place where your team, both internal and external, can collaborate around conversations, events, documents, and tasks. So how do people collaborate today? This is happening in a variety of different ways. And what's really happening is when we think about it, we break it down into four quadrants. The things that we do inside of a project with our coworkers. So there's presentations, the proposals, there's a bunch of decisions that are happening, and it couldn't be something that's non-revenue producing. It could be something like a company holiday party. And really the concept here is there's a number of different things that, maybe we're a wide dispersed workforce and we need to go ahead and have one soundboard or one message board where we can bounce ideas off of each other, share cost proposals, share documents with each other. And there was really not a really good medium to do that. Today, email is serving as that primary collaboration tool, and the problem with email is it often turns into a black hole. And then we have a number of ongoing groups at work. So there's a number of different things that we're participating in. The softball team. I need to go ahead and see what's the accounting budget look like and how do we plan for the fiscal close. Or I'm part of the 401k committee. All of these things are going to go ahead and still impact your professional life, but they're groups that are overhead related, if you will. Still in our professional quadrant, but they're not necessarily project related. They're more based around committees and groups that we're then associated to. And then we go ahead and start looking at it on maybe the personal side, where there's still projects that we need to go ahead and accomplish, but they're more personal. I need to go ahead and build a clubhouse for my kids, or I'm putting in a pool, or I'm going on a bunch of different vacations with 16 different family members. We need one place where we can go ahead and make group decisions, communicate it across a wider team or wider group, so we don't have to make 16 phone calls or forward 16 emails or blind CC everybody in the world about what we need to go ahead and discuss and what we're talking about. Kona is helping you establish a place where everyone can come to and get an understanding of what's going on for you, things that are in your personal life but are also project related. And then the final one, I'm a big advocate of Make-A-Wish. And I do a lot of charity work. So if you think about all the things that you could do within the confines of a group in your personal life, Kona then plays a very unique role in how it can go ahead and help collaborate and how they can go ahead and do knowledge sharing and idea sharing without having to go ahead and push it across a bunch of different mediums. So there's a bunch of tools that are out in the workplace today that do parts of these things, that address a piece of this quadrant, but they don't address every single facet of this quadrant. And one of the things that we unfortunately are seeing happening is email is actually the tool that people are using to go ahead and collaborate across these four quadrants. And unfortunately, we all know that email can often turn into an inbox of 600 emails, or it can just turn into a black hole of information where it's impossible to strip that data out. So what we see happening is Kona is then fitting firmly inside of all of these quadrants, right in the bullseye, to be the tool that can address those four different quadrants of your life that need greater collaboration. At Deltek, we are extremely thrilled about how well Kona Business is doing. It's about a year and a half old, but when we step back and we think about what has happened in the last year and a half, we've had over 30,000 registered Kona users. This is the fastest growing Deltek product that we've ever created in our 30-year history. Across 38 countries, people are using Kona. And what's impressive about that statistic is most of those countries, or a good portion of those countries, English is not their primary language. So what that tells me, and we'll address this in a later slide, is there's not a tool in the marketplace that people have been able to find that do what we do. And they're willing to go ahead and operate within a tool that is written in a language that's perhaps not their native one. But there is a requirement for such greater collaboration around the groups and around the projects and around the spaces that they need, where they go ahead and find the trade-off being doing it in English versus doing it in their native tongue. Almost 12,000 Kona spaces have been created, almost 5,200 mobile downloads have been happening, and we've actually struck over 250 new Kona business deals. So from a traction perspective, this thing is taking off, and it's really going ahead and reaching a point of critical mass where the buzz is getting out there and there's a need getting out there, and we're raising the awareness that will go ahead and continue to make this a successful and viable project for Deltek for many years to come. And alluding to the slide that I just transitioned off of, we started to talk about 38 different countries are using the Kona business tool across certain organizations within those 38 countries. The two which are the most impressive to me when we start thinking about how has this solution actually opened up new markets and opportunities for Deltek, I think about the one dead center, Kalina, and then we think about the one in Swico. Kalina is out of Czech Republic. English, not their native language. And then when we think about Swico, again, out of Sweden, while most Swedes can speak English fairly well, again, Swedish is their primary language. And what this is telling me is, again, so many people need a tool like this to go ahead and do greater and wider collaboration across both internal and external teams. They're willing to go ahead and make the sacrifice of doing it in English. But also what this is telling me is we're going ahead and getting into areas that we typically don't do business. There's still professional services organizations. They still think in the form of groups and projects, but they're outside of our traditional professional services verticals. So we think about the show producers, Boston Children's Hospital, Defense and Security Technology Group. These are all guys that are typically outside of our wheelhouse, but are now starting to get an understanding of who Deltek is and what Deltek is through our Kona business solution. Really impressive statistic, really impressive slide that I think speaks volumes to what we've done with the Kona business application. And unfortunately, this is the known competitor, SharePoint. So many people think SharePoint can be and do all things for all men, but one of the things that happens with SharePoint is there's a firewall constraint. Often SharePoint is put behind one's firewall, and to get external collaborators into that, they have to tunnel in through a VPN connection, they have to tunnel in through some kind of firewall tunnel, and really the concept is we don't have to worry about that constraint in Kona Business because it's hosted up inside of Amazon Cloud. The other thing that we do really well with Kona Business is we work with SharePoint. So there's so many advantages that you can see spelled out here. Lower cost of ownership, less customization, you're more in control, it's integrated with your ERPs that Deltek make. and you understand what your total cost of ownership is going to be. Where, when you look at the iceberg graphic to the right of the slide, that's the SharePoint story. You know what the SharePoint licenses are, but underneath that iceberg, the portion of the iceberg that's underwater, that is alluding to all the other hidden costs, window licenses, upgrades in SQL Server, physical servers. All those things drive a really terrible cost of ownership when you start thinking about doing what we do in Kona Business within a SharePoint instance. It just doesn't scale. It's not a good investment. And the other thing that you're going to benefit from, I just alluded to it earlier, what we do with our social collaboration portal is we're putting up inside of Amazon. So everything that you know about Amazon, everything you get with Amazon is then inherited within the Kona application. Super safe, super secure, and very private. So not only is Kona your social private network that gives you the ability to go ahead and have all this information and you determine who gets to see everything, but we also go ahead and ensure that your information is protected. There's full redundancy, so you're always having great response time when you're interacting with Kona, and then the physical security that's put around everything that we do up inside of the Amazon server farms. There's an enormous amount of physical security around who can actually gain access to the physical servers and who can actually get into the server rooms themselves. So the security and the redundancy and the latency and all that stuff that comes with Amazon Cloud is then built into the Kona application. So it is essentially bulletproof from a deployment perspective. And then what we know is when we think about collaboration, oftentimes the need for wider collaboration is because we are always away from our desks. We're not chained to our desks anymore as people who are participating in groups and projects. We're on site. We're taking meetings. We're meeting with other clients. We're meeting with external team members. So one of the things that we needed to do when it came to Kona was support the mobile initiative. So today we have apps for iOS and Android. We alluded to that earlier, where there was a number of downloads for both of those tools happening. And we're going to go ahead and then support both your phone and tablet. So the concept is, as we go ahead and gain a more critical mass, as more and more people start to get introduced and start to use Kona around the world, we're going to start looking to support Windows-based phones as well. And that's coming. And we talk about how the roadmap for Kona is very specific outside of all the other roadmaps we have from a Deltek product perspective. So this is its specific Kona roadmap. The things that we've done in 2013 that we just buttoned up, having more open spaces, having a video and audio chat, giving people some reminders, and there's tighter integration to Outlook. And these are the things that we're actually accomplishing right now. March 3rd right now, so we're in the middle of being able to establish Kona Chat, tighter integration to SharePoint, a better UI for our APIs, creating a Kona marketplace, supporting single sign-on, and then having version control around our documents. So this is a very exciting roadmap, and this is going to be driven by client usage, client feedback. And what's great about the Kona roadmap is it's also then being built out in conjunction with our other ERP solutions. So when we think about Meconomy or when we think about Deltek Vision, those roadmaps also then have other unique tie-ins back into this Kona tool. So we're just going to see these two tools converge over time and get tighter and tighter integrated as we build the solutions out and as we go ahead and make the logical tie-ins. So that's everything that we just want to talk about and introduce from a Kona perspective. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Katie Levenstein, who's going to give you a very detailed demo as to how the tool looks, how it operates, and how we find our clients using it today. And then I'll be back at the end of her demonstration to go ahead and show you how it's integrated into Vision. Here you go, Katie. Thanks.
Now we're going to take a look at the Kona product itself. Right now we're looking at the My Kona view, which is what we consider to be the dashboard or the home page of Kona. This is where all the conversations and activities across your projects will come into one view. So what we're going to do is break this down and take a look at a specific example of a project space, and then we'll later on have a better understanding of how this My Kona view applies to us as an individual. So here we're going to take a look at an example of a building project that we've set up as a Kona space. Here is the Overview tab, and every space has this view, and this gives you a high-level view of the important information and activities going on in the space. So from here we can see that there are a number of different active conversations going on. We can take a glance at the important tasks that are being worked on, any files that have been marked important, and any upcoming events and things going on within the space. Another really key part of this overview tab is we can see the top contributors in this project space. And this is a really great feature for project managers in particular because they have the visibility into what people are actively working in the space and following up on their roles as well. So you can see who's most engaged in this project space. Now we're going to take a look at the people in this space and how they're managed and grouped. So from the People page, we can see the different individuals that have been added to this project space. And what we start to notice here are there are people who work both within this direct company and those who work outside of the company. And these are what we consider guest collaborators. So this is where we really see the power of Kona in terms of external collaboration. So you have the ability to invite people from outside of your organization into your spaces for free, and they have access to activities, information, and they can create things like conversations and tasks to actively participate with you and your group. And it's also very easy to on and offboard people within your spaces as well. Another thing that we see from this People page is the ability to set up these people groups. So down below you can set up new groups and assign them to different names and purposes and then drag and drop individuals right into them. And these groups are very powerful in terms of permissions and assigning different activities to groups of people. So you have the ability to lock down the information that you're sharing with people and groups. And later on we'll take a look at how you can apply these groups in situations with tasks and conversations and assigning different people. We'll take a quick look at the invite model, and here we can see how you can invite people to your spaces using their email address, and you can also browse your direct Kona network, so you can invite people from other spaces that you're in as well. And then we also offer this integration with your social network, so you have the ability to invite people who you're connected to directly in Facebook or LinkedIn. So now we're going to take a deeper dive into the space. So first I just want to note that these tabs that we see at the top, the conversations, tasks, events, and files, are available across all your project spaces. So this is where we'll see consistency in terms of project space design, but what you do with these different tabs and information is specific to each project space that you've set up. So here we see the conversation stream, and what's specific about Kona is that it's very conversation centric, so you can have conversations around a number of different kinds of activities. So you're not just bound to task management or file sharing, for instance. So you'll see these conversations around the different things that you're working on. So we see here with this icon, we can see there's a conversation around a calendar event. You can also discuss the tasks that you're working on. So we'll take a look at an example of a conversation that we have going on within this project space. The design that we have here around this conversation is very similar to the conversations around tasks, events, and files. What distinguishes them are the different details at the top. So we can see the discussion topic is around this city permit change that this group is working on. If we take a look at the groups, people included here, we can see these different people groups I mentioned previously, and we can see how they've been applied in the situation. So we know that the information being shared across this conversation is specific to just these individuals. So this is a private discussion. Here is where you have the conversation thread going on around this topic, and you can think about it as a number of different email responses all contained within this one conversation here. So you really see where the context comes into play here, and it's a really nice way to keep your discussion organized and any decisions that are being made around this topic. Within your conversation, you also have the ability to format your text with a number of different options down below. And we'll also see the powerful file sharing integrations that Kona offers. So you can share files that are directly associated with your computer and your private information. You can also share any links to outside pages and websites. And you can also access any files that you have stored in your Google Doc, Dropbox, or Box accounts. And this is where we'll see in the future, which we detailed in our roadmap, the SharePoint integration. So down the road, you'll be able to share files directly from your SharePoint account. But in the meantime, you do have the ability to share a link to your SharePoint files directly here and provide access to people with shared access to your SharePoint site as well. The important thing to note about sharing files across conversations is this is where you provide access or a link to those files. So you can always reference those files back here within the conversation, but ultimately all those files that you're sharing live within the Files tab of the space, and I'll point to the Files tab later on. I'd like to quickly just show another example of a conversation that we have within Kona Business, and this is a conversation poll. So this is where you and a group can effectively get things done and make big decisions around different things with large groups of people. So here we can see the poll on the left side of the conversation, and you can add multiple questions and multiple options as well. So you can really format your poll to match your needs. And then you can also have conversation around the poll at the same time. So this makes it really interactive and also allows you to make your decisions very fast. So now we'll transition over to the Tasks tab, and we'll see how you can leverage the Tasks tab to stay on top of all the responsibilities for your project. And what we see right away are these different people within the space, so you can see how you can assign tasks to different individuals and also have visibility into who's working on what around your project goals. So we'll take a look at a specific example of a task, and we'll see how this is structured within Kona. So what we'll notice right away is, although this conversation looks similar to the ones that we looked at previously, we can see at the top we have these different task details. So we have a due date, we have a tag which is showing us high priority around this task. We can also see who is specifically assigned to it and any shared files as well. And on the left, we can also see the task status. So we have visibility into who is responsible for something on this task, and we can also see who's completed their part and who still needs to follow up on their action items. And as the project manager or the person who created the task, you also have the ability to override any of these decisions and really follow through with people who are responsible for completing the task as well. So this is what we consider a must-complete task. You can set it up so that people have to complete it, and then you can also set tasks up where any member of your group also has the ability to complete the task. The next part that we're going to take a look at is the private calendar. So every project space gets a private calendar where you can add calendar events, any important meetings. You also have the ability to put any recurring meetings as well, so we can see this particular project group has a recurring status report. You can also select to have your tasks come through on the calendar. So these are tasks with specific due dates, so you can set those up, and it really gives you a great look at how your project's going and the timeline that you have set for the group. Another really powerful part of the Kona calendar is that you can share this calendar with any of your outside calendars. So if we take a look at calendars here, you can share this calendar, and you can also add any outside calendars in. So this really allows you and your teammates to focus on one calendar. So you can incorporate your Outlook calendar, for instance, or your private calendar all in with your Kona calendars as well. So you can really stay on top of the important things that you need to follow up on. So the last component of the project space I'm just going to point to is the Files tab. And this is where all the shared files across the space live, and you have different file folders that you can use to organize the different files that you are a part of. So the next part that we're going to focus on is the Kona business account specifically. So what we're going to do is take a look at the Kona business account from the administrator's perspective. So down below, the administrator will have this account section. And this is where you can access any business accounts where you have administrative rights to. So this is the admin console, and the admin has the ability to easily offboard and onboard any members within the account. So we can take a look at the member page. So this is where you can add members into your business, and the key thing here is you don't have to add people that have your company's domain. So you can add people to your business account who work both inside and outside of your organization. And these people ultimately hold a business seat within your account. And it's very easy, as we can see here. If you just click the X, that's how you can offboard someone from your account, so it's a very quick process. You can also add space publishers, and we'll talk about this a bit later on. This is where you designate the people that have the ability to make space templates within your account. Over here, the administrator can also add multiple administrators, and this is a really nice feature. If, for instance, the administrator is on vacation for a week, there can be another person who has the same rights and ability to manage the project spaces in the account. And then here we can also see how the admin can control all the spaces in the account, and this is also where you can archive and delete project spaces as well. Another thing to mention within Kona Business is you have unlimited spaces, so you can create as many project spaces as you need for your account. Over here is where you can manage the specific file storage that you have within your account, and then if you go beyond this, you can always purchase additional storage as well. From here, you can also access the private social network, and this is a space that every member of your business account will get. And so here we were able to access this space from the admin console. For any other member of the account, they can access this space from their spaces list. And this space is really powerful in terms of bringing your employees together and your company as a whole. So the key part about this space is that only members of the network can have access to this space, so you can't add external collaborators to this group space. And we'll just show some quick examples of how you could utilize this. We have a number of companies that are actually using this as a form of a social intranet. So here you can see how you can share information around benefits. You could also set up your weekly newsletters to come through, and you can use those formatting options that I showed previously for sharing information and images and links as well. So the very last part of Kona Business that we want to show are the space templates. Earlier we took a look at a specific project space. So one of the key things that you have within Kona Business is the ability to set up spaces that you would use for repeatable projects and processes. So you can add any of your spaces, whether they're made from scratch or they've been developed along the way, as templates, and then you can use those and download them over and over again in the future, and that'll really help you to launch your projects. So we'll just show really briefly an example of a template within this account that we have here. So we've created an architecture template, and this has set up people groups and task lists that'll help you get started every time you need to vamp up a new architecture project. And the very last part of Kona we'll show is the My Kona view again. So now that we've taken a look at a couple different spaces and we've seen how you can use Kona with projects and with your teams, you'll see how all the conversations that you have across all your different groups come into this one view. These different space images help you distinguish between those groups, and this is where you can really stay on top of all the important information across your life, whether it's within your work life or your personal life. So now I'm going to give it back over to Mike so he can show us how we'll access Kona from within Vision.
So now back to the not so smooth part of the demonstration. Really good job, Katie. Thank you. There's four places that we're going to go ahead and look at Kona within Vision. First, we'll start here inside the project info center record. So you'll see here I just pulled up one of my existing projects. This is actually a billable project. And one of the things that I just want to emphasize is what you see and how this information is really laid out is defined by you. This is essentially what Kona is doing and how it's rendering inside of that Deltek Vision frame. So as we just saw in Katie's demonstration, here's all the conversations that we can go ahead and see. Here's all the tasks that are ongoing. Here's a number of different calendar events that are transpiring on this particular job. And then we can also go ahead and click on the next button, which would then illustrate all the files. I'm not going to click on that just because there's hundreds of files associated to this one, and it's going to take a second to load. So this is one place that we're going to go ahead and see Kona rendering inside of the Deltek Vision frame within Project Info Center. The other place that we're going to be able to see that is here inside of the opportunity record. So really the concept here is when you think about it from an opportunity pursuit perspective, think about all the things that you have to do to go ahead and get a proposal out the door. You know, the different resumes that need to be updated, the cut sheets that we want to go ahead and produce, the different images that we're going to share, the conversations that we want to have around decisions that we'll make as to what we pitch and how we pitch it. All that information again rendering inside of the opportunity record and then showing that appropriate Kona space inside of what we call the Kona widget on the right hand side. Same idea. All the tasks, all the conversations, the calendar events, and all the files. So those are the two places that it's embedded hard right in within your Info Center records. The other place that you can go ahead and embed it is here as a user-defined node. And one of the things that I'm going to go ahead and show you is as I click on social collaboration, what this is going to do is it's going to actually render down into my own personal Kona view. So you'll remember that piece of the social triangle I talked about earlier, that personal productivity side. The other thing that you're going to go ahead and talk about and see is when Katie was showing you the My Kona view, this is that area. It's essentially your dashboard as an end user. How does this information then go ahead and apply to me across all the different projects and spaces I'm then part of? This is my running list of tasks and polls I have to take and meetings that I have to attend and things of that nature. So there's really three different ways you can go ahead and render this information within the Deltek frame. Project Info Center, Opportunity Info Center, and then as a user-defined node, which would then drop you into your own personal productivity space, which is the My Kona view. The other thing that we can go ahead and share Kona inside of is then really Navigator. So if you haven't licensed Navigator, this is actually a standalone tool that is fully integrated into the rest of your Vision application, which was designed for project managers and really designed for project managers to give them a better or give them more insight, I should say, into how can they go ahead and achieve project management excellence. So here in Navigator, it's all the underpinning financials, the things that help us run the project well. Over in the Kona widget is then how do we go ahead and execute on that project well. So much like we saw in the Project Info Center and inside of the Opportunity Info Center, all those underpinning functions of Kona rendering right inside of the Navigator frame. So that's everything. We're really excited about what's happening with this tool. We're really excited about, Kona having its own very unique development path, which is then truly aligned to how we're then going to develop vision into the future, and just look for tighter and tighter integrations as these two projects evolve over time. If there's any questions, feel free to go ahead and reach out to your account manager, and we'll be more than happy to go ahead and schedule a more in-depth demonstration about the two tools coexisting within one another. Thank you very much.